lovelies, it's Sunshine and welcome to my studio. Today, as the name suggests, we are going to be looking at watercolor gradients. Now, watercolor gradients are the simplest and the basicest, the simplest and the easiest form of shading. So why are shading and gradients so important? Well, let me show you. Right, so good shading and seamless gradients help make things look more 3D or more lifelike and real. By practicing gradients in a controlled way like we will today, it makes it so much easier when it comes to any painting application. Good shading can make the difference between a flat character and a lifelike one. So really, it's the difference between 2D and 3D. Okay, so work face is on. So the exercise that we're going to do today for gradients is really simple. So I'm going to walk through it step by step in real time so you guys can follow along with me. Now, for this exercise, I have chosen two colors. I have a bright green and a bright pink. Now, these are what we call complementary colors on the color wheel. It means they're opposite each other on the color wheel. It just means they'll work really well together and they're really pleasing to the human eye. You can choose colors from the color wheel in complementary colors if you like. Another option might be like a yellow and a purple or blue and orange, but honestly, choose whatever colors you've got at home. So paper, please use watercolor paper because your watercolor paper is going to be far more absorbent than any other kind of paper that you can get. I'm using 210 GSM watercolor paper today, so it's a little bit thicker. Please make sure you use over 185 GSM, just because the thicker it is, the better the paper will stand up to the water. Now, I've taped it down. I've taped it down so I don't get any ripples. Now, going straight into brushes, I have an inch size flat brush today. Now, the reason I'm using something so big is because I have quite a large surface area to go across and I'm not really doing any details. You can use whatever brush you want, but obviously the smaller it is, the longer it's going to take and the more tedious it's going to be. I'll just bring my water over here. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my brush and wet down the entirety of the paper. So there is no right and wrong way to do this, just wet it down as much as you can. Lots and lots of water. All right, all over. Don't miss any corners or anything, because otherwise you'll find that the paint does funny things in the areas that aren't wet. There we go. Make sure there's no little bits of fluff on your piece of paper before you start, because for some reason my paper always starts with bits of fluff. Get rid of the fluff. All right, now I'm starting out with my pink. So first thing I'm going to do is create a wash. And basically what a wash is just water with paint in it. So I've got my nice pink bright wash here, and I'm going to start at the top of the page and bring the paint down. So starting at the top, I'm just going to bring that paint down with nice, even strokes. Now the idea is as we get lower down as we get lower to the bottom of the paper, we want that color to gradient down. So what I've just done there is I've cleaned my brush and I've dried it so it's just damp, and bringing this damp brush is just going to bring down a little bit of that color to the bottom of the paper. So we get a nice soft gradient down. Coming back up now, what we're going to do is we're going to get more color. So we'll get slightly stronger version of our gradient, slightly stronger version of our wash, and do exactly the same thing. So starting at the top of the paper again and bringing it down like that, about halfway, washing the brush out, drying it off, and then bringing that paint down further. And basically we'll be just repeating this over and over again until we have a nice smooth gradient. Drying my brush, and I'm trying to keep it as smooth as possible. So my strokes need to be nice and smooth so I don't get any streakiness to my paint. That's looking pretty good actually. Just bring up some of that lightness from the bottom. Great. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to let that completely dry, and then we're going to do exactly the same thing again and do another pass do another pass over it so we make that bright pink color nice and popping. And bing! And it's dry, the magic of YouTube. Now I know I did say I was going to do this in real time, but I figured you didn't want to watch paint dry. Anyway, we're coming back into our second pass now, so I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to wet down my whole of my paper and start bringing in my wash again. So wet that down. Don't stress out too much if your gradient isn't too smooth yet, because this second pass over the paint will smooth out any indiscrepancies. Okay, so getting a nice thick amount of my color now, because we really want to bring it to the really bright stage. We'll start at the top again, bringing it down, about a third of the way down, and just washing out my brush, cleaning it off, and continuing with that color. Okay. And coming back up to the top, keeping those brush strokes nice and long and smooth. All right, what I'm watching for now is any streaky bits that might appear, because I really want to get my gradient to be nice and smooth in this phase before I move on to the second color. So we really achieve this by going backwards and forwards and over again. All right, I'm gonna add a little bit more color because it's not quite bright enough. So this will be my brightest wash yet. Boom. Now, if you're finding you're getting a little bit of a lump in the middle of your paper from a ripple, that's totally okay. Mine's doing it too. You'll find that it will flatten down again as your paper dries. Just bringing that paint down again. So close to being finished. So this is the stage we really need to watch and make sure that that gradient's coming down far enough. What I actually might do is add a straight paint to the top of that page, because I really want that top to be the brightest point. So I've just added paint straight to that paper, like that. But again, I will blend it down. So I'll take some more of that wash that I mixed up earlier and pull it down with that. Okay, go up, pull it down. So every time you go up to the color at the top of your page, you're essentially bringing more color back down again as well, because your paintbrush will pick up that color. Try not to neglect the bottom of your paper, because it's really easy to get really engrossed in this beautiful colorful stuff up here, but sometimes you might find that it starts to dry and so your color will bleed, and you don't really want that in your gradient. So just give it some love and attention and make sure that your strokes are nice and even and you're blending it out really smoothly. Smooth out that top bit. Hopefully this will be my last pass. Now I do definitely want some of that color in the middle, because that's where the green's going to touch it. So they're going to touch colors in the middle there. I'm really just trying to make the top nice and even, so both sides have an even amount of that color over it. Okay, that's a bit bright, so let's bring in some water and dull that color down there. It's the last of those streaks. You could literally do this all day. Oh my God, I'm so close. I think I'm being a perfectionist now. Okay, I'm gonna dry this off now, and then we're gonna add our green. And dry, and welcome back. So I'm about to add my next color, which is the green. This starts exactly the same way. We're doing the whole process again, just on the other side of the paper. This will also smooth out any imperfections that you may have had come up in the pink, but we're gonna start with our green. So let's wet down the whole of the paper, just as we did before, making it nice and damp. Paying particular attention around the bottom area, because that's where we're going to start coming in with our green. Okay, so taking a nice strong amount of my green. So I'm going to start off with a lighter wash and starting at the bottom this time and bringing it up to the top. Adding a slightly darker amount into my wash and bringing it up to the top. Again, keep your strokes nice and smooth all the way to the bottom of the paper. At this stage, it might be a great idea to swap over paper towel because if you're anything like me, mine is absolutely saturated. Fresh. Let's add some more of that green in, making it slightly darker again and coming in from the bottom with the nice easy strokes. I love this green so much. It is one of my favorite colors. I use it all the time. Anything bright. I mean, I probably shouldn't use as much bright as I do, but oh my gosh, I love bright colors so much. Okay, let's bring in that gradient slightly, dry that down. Let's bring it up to the pink a bit more. Make friends with that pink and back down. Keeping your strokes nice and even and smooth. And coming up, bringing that green with you, wash out, make yourself a damp brush and come back across. Okay, a lot of this is about controlling the amount of water that's on your paper as well and how the paint reacts to that. Adding to that wash, adding in our color, building it up, washing our brush, and bringing it back down. Bringing it down again, almost ready to dry this layer, I think. And somehow I've got more fluff. I will remove that when I dry it. I don't know how that happened. It's the bane of my existence is the fluff. Okay, I'm going to let that dry and then we'll come over again and do another layer of the green. Dry, and our drying is done. Now we do exactly the same thing again. So wet down the entirety of the paper and then we add more green. So wet, 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 wet. Nice even strokes. Keep that wet happening. Beautiful. If you notice, once it had dried, all the ripples had gone. That is one of the benefits of using tape. Okay. All right, so let's bring in some more of our green. So let's make our wash really bright this time because at the moment it kind of looks yellow. So let's make it green. Really bright green. Oh yeah. So bring it down, wash your brush, dry, bring it out, and then come back in. Wow, that's so bright. I love this color so much. I'm really working in the middle here so they blend really nicely together. So trying to bring some more of that pink down so it's a bit more pink rather than green. And we'll bring the green up to meet it. Just add the final colors down the bottom, making it really bright, really pop. Coming down, keeping it smooth. Now, make sure all my streaks are gone in the green. Let's really pump up the volume on that green because I really want it to be green rather than like the yellow. That's better. We're really paying attention, really close attention to blending here because this is the whole point of the exercise, is to blend seamlessly and make a really smooth, beautiful blend. Okay, I think I'm done. I'm just gonna dry it and see what happens. And voila, we have a beautiful watercolor gradient. Fun tip, if you're using normal old masking tape, you can use a hairdryer to help you get it up, because otherwise the masking tape will probably tear at your picture, which you don't want. So with the hairdryer, we're gonna heat up the glue of the masking tape and pull it off. And there we have our beautiful watercolor gradient. Alright, so the point of this exercise is, yes, to do a gradient, but also to learn about blending. Blending is so much easier when you're using two bright colors like this. It gets so much trickier when you're dealing with something like a skin tone. You're still using two colors and you're still blending them together to get a nice smooth finish, but it's so much harder. So practicing with this is just so much easier. Straight gradient pictures like this can be really useful though. For example, I used a straight gradient in a little picture the other day of a air balloon. So I've got blue up the top and pink down the bottom, showing an evening sky. Gradients are also really great for horizons, seas, landscapes, and if you end up with hundreds of these, you could write heaps of letters to your friends. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'm going to be doing another of these videos in a couple of weeks' time called Shading 102. It's basically the next step. So we're going to be doing the sphere. Make sure you practice your little gradients until then, get really proficient with your blending, and then we're gonna move on and do something a bit more complicated. As always, if you want to see more, my Instagram link is down below. Like and subscribe here on YouTube and tick the little bell for notifications. I should be having an episode out once a week from now on, but just in case, tick the little bell. Alright, that's it for today. I hope you had a lovely time. Keep practicing your gradients and I will chat to you all very soon.